I mentioned in the video concerning Adam from Buffy that I'd do a ranking video of the big bads in Buffy and Angel if there was enough demand. And here it is. First, we must go over the parameters for a character being a big bad in the series. 1. They must be the leader of their faction opposing the protagonist of either series, or lone opposition by their peak. As such, those such as Faith or Hamilton don't count, due to serving Mayor Wilkins and Wolfram and Tart respectively. 2. They must tie heavily into the directions and main character decisions or the overarching themes of a season. It's because of this that some seasons will have multiple big bads due to their significance in the narrative. 3. Perhaps the most obvious one, in that their role as antagonist must take up a significant portion of the season, or at least its climax. That said, Illyria won't be included, as her status as main threat only lasted 2 or 3 episodes, which don't directly tie into the events of the series finale. All that said, the candidates who count as big bads are, for Buffy Season 1, the Master. Buffy Season 2 has Spike, and I will only count his characterization role for this season, and Angelus. Season 3 has Mayor Richard Wilkins. Season 4 has Adam. Season 5 has Glory. Season 6 has both Warren Mears and Dark Willow. And Season 7 has the First Evil. For Angel, its different structure leaves Season 1 without a big bad. Season 2 has Darla. Season 3 has both Daniel Holtz and Sajan. Season 4 has Angelus, again, and Jasmine, while Season 5 has the Circle of the Black Thorn as a collective. That brings the total to 14. I should also point out I haven't read much of the comics, so this will only concern the televised version of the Buffyverse. I doubt anyone will find Adam being at the bottom as shocking, especially if you saw my comparison between him and Cell from Dragon Ball. To not retread on that video too much, his role in Season 4 is shoehorned in quite suddenly, his introspection doesn't last long, and the themes attached to him of humanity's darkness are done far better in Season 6. There is how he ties into Season 4's science versus magic or masculine versus feminine conflict, in this scientific threat forcing the Scoobies to rely on incredibly strong magic. But this is done with far less nuance than with his creator Maggie, and this part of the story is more interesting for the repercussions of it in the season's final episode, rather than Adam's own actions. Jasmine embodies the problems with Angel Season 4's narrative. Mind control itself doesn't doom a character or story, as I went over in the video concerning Baby from Dragon Ball GT. When so much of Season 4's narrative had already dealt with possession and mind control, making a lot of the character decisions artificial though, especially with Cordelia's character being wasted to bring about Jasmine, she ends up being more frustrating than interesting. On top of that, her being destroyed by Connor punching her in the back of the head, despite tanking multiple hits from his physically comparable father, is an inconsistent end to her role. The only thing placing her above Adam is her approach of getting her way with brute force being the last resort, which is a rarity for a major villain. I've talked a little on the pitfalls of Buffy's first season before, and its antagonist is one of them. The Master's role boils down to relying on his incompetent subordinates. His return to power only comes about through Buffy's own self-fulfilling prophecy, and even after being rejuvenated with her blood. Him being beaten once Buffy gets revived with CPR without a moment's rest makes him seem quite incompetent compared to those who challenged a far more experienced version of Buffy. What does allow him to rank above Adam and Jasmine, though, is the reveal through flashbacks in Angel Season 2 that the Order of Aurelius worships the Old Ones, and shows him as someone who acknowledges his place in the food chain, but he still ends up being one of the most milquetoast big bads. If anything, the Master becomes a more interesting character in the alternate reality of the Wish, in which his view towards eating humans becomes far more efficient. But it's difficult to factor this in when an alternate reality character is essentially a different one, and it still makes it difficult for the Master to hold up when another show took the ideals of him to craft a far more menacing antagonist, to the point he feels fairly dated. The Circle of the Black Thorn is the most unconventional in being a specific group tied to Angel's overarching enemy in Wolfram and Hart, as well as its members all allowing for each member of Team Angel to have the spotlight in the final episode. At the same time, however, the quantity of them and how their downfall at the hands of Team Angel is primarily condensed into the final episode also leaves them as far less characterized than the other big bads, along with easier to take down once infiltrated than most others. It also doesn't help that the only ones with a conflict built up with Team Angel are Brooker being antagonized by Gunn and serving as a means of returning to his roots, as well as a slight conflict being built between Cyrus Vale and Wesley. Still not bad as a narrative tool, but hollow compared to the characterization of those above them. Despite Holtz causing most of the conflict in Angel Season 3, Sajan is more the villainous mastermind in orchestrating Connor being trapped in Korthoff, and displaying the issues of putting far too much stock in prophecy, both through his manipulation of Angel investigations through the father will kill the son prophecy, and his own demise coming from a self-fulfilling prophecy of his own making. He is also characterized better than those below him with his dry sense of humour and being able to pull the strings even at a time when not physically capable of such. Still, his presence beyond this is limited before his loose end is tied up quickly in Angel Season 5. Holtz's background makes him one of the most innovative antagonists in the series, being a regular human, having become capable of killing hundreds of vampires, and having an understandable reason for revenge against Angel, especially when acknowledging Angel and Angelus aren't entirely separate beings. He was also quite tactical in his offense, such as using a grenade to bypass Caritas' barrier, as well as having enough of a moral compass to spare an infant Connor. He also serves as a dark parallel and prototype to Robin Wood's role in Buffy Season 7, with their similar backgrounds and goals, with the darker direction taken with his arc showcasing the trappings of revenge. Holtz is prevented from being ranked any higher with the limited legacy he has after Angel Season 3 and the first few episodes of Season 4, as well as the general quality of those above him, but he still stands as a good addition to Angel's antagonists. I've talked a fair bit on one of Buffy's core ideals, being that the evil that can spawn from human nature is more dangerous than the series' physical demons, and the final big bad of Buffy displays this excellently, with the first evil drawn directly upon the fears and doubts within the minds of others, both manipulating those such as Andrew in drawing on their desires, or forcing those such as Spike to confront and overcome their own trauma. Unfortunately, this means their characterization is fairly limited beyond being evil and wanting to kill the Slayers, but their words to their allies and enemies makes them an excellent narrative tool towards the series' overarching ideas and several character arcs within the season. Spike was a breath of fresh air when immediately succeeding the Master and the Anointed One, with him destroying the latter being a good representation of the path the series would go. His battle prowess, in particular his tactical intelligence, made him a greater threat to Buffy than either of those two, just as his care for Drusilla brought far more complexity to the series' villains. Even though I'd confidently cite Spike as the best Buffyverse character, I can't rank him any higher as a villain, as his role as Big Bad gets immediately taken away once Angelus appears. Plus, one issue of the Master remaining within Season 2 Spike is him occasionally relying too much on hired help with overhyped reputation, as in Kendra's debut episode. From one whirlwind to another, we have Darla in her Angel Season 2 incarnation. I've already done a video centered on her, so to avoid repeating myself too much, she ranks this high through her arc concerning her soul, acting as a foil to Angel who helped bring him into a darker place before his epiphany during despair, and how she acts as a dark reflection to Buffy in her role as a love interest to Angel. Going into the top 5, we have one of the most physically inept of these, proving that's not always important in an effective villain, with Warren. His comic incompetence at first doesn't seem like what would be within the upper tiers of Buffy big bads. But this changes during his attempted assault and then murder of Katrina, and his attempt to frame Buffy. It's not as though these are too dissonant either, when even the more comic trio antics present Warren as far more willing to go overboard, in having no regrets about attempting to cause radiation poisoning to Buffy with the invisibility ray. He also serves as a cautionary tale to geek archetypes, with the viewers who may identify as such, and pop culture in general, as the wacky hijinks of the typical social outcast trying to get girls or status quickly takes on an insidious nature when exploring their actions or psychology in more depth than a typical high school comedy. Alongside this, the regularness of Warren shows not only how easy it is for someone to become him, but in his mentality being something the Scoobies are utterly unprepared for, when he ignores the conventional route of a big bad's elaborate world-changing scheme, and simply tries to shoot Buffy with a handgun, which leads into the creation of an even more profound big bad we'll soon get to. Mayor Wilkins also ties into the ideas on humans and demons I've mentioned quite overtly in him wishing to become the latter, and having enough of a presence to use vampires and demons as his pawns effectively. What allows him to rank this high, though, is his dynamic with Faith, in which we further see the moral greys of Buffy's villains through his paternal nature, while still viewing her mainly as a tool and property of himself, due to his soulless being at that point. This allows for the conflict between he and Buffy to have a great build-up, despite how little they interact, as Faith's arc in this season plays well into his characterization and audience perceptions of him. Reaching the top 3, we have Angelus. His characterization as Big Bad of Season 2 is fine, but it's mainly his role throughout flashbacks of Angel and his presence in its 4th season that bring him this high, as I've gone over in the video focused on him. His Buffy Season 2 self succeeds mainly as a foil to Buffy's desires, and a representation of her belief in there always being a choice even if not a good one. His more psychological presence in Angel, though, is what adds far more depth to him, not only in it being revealed in Buffy Season 3 a vampire's personality is born from some level of their human self before Siren, and thus serve truly as the dark aspects of Angel's psyche manifested, but in how he draws upon the weaknesses of Angel's allies due to this. I'd recommend watching the video on him for more, but to close off this part of the segment, Angelus serves as a reminder that Angel's past sins are part of him, and how difficult the idea of true redemption can be. Despite not being as directly involved in the most pivotal moments of her season as some other big bads, Glory stands as one of the finest due to her unapologetically self-indulgent characterization, as well as having a well-established weakness to help keep her balanced enough to not immediately end Buffy's life, and how her characterization makes her an antithesis of Buffy in ways Faith did and more. Whereas Buffy is forced to hone her skills and avoid a healthy social life out of duty, Glory does as she wishes and revels in comfort without being that emotionally mature, despite her immense age because of this, as well as displaying overt sensuality that Buffy is given reason to avoid with how her first time with Angel went. This may sound too similar to Faith, but what makes Glory stand on her own is the latter point also making her a foil to the other Scoobies, as exploration or struggles against lust did not provide the best results for characters such as Willow or Spike. Most importantly though, is how prior and later events prove her philosophy of chaos to have some truth to it, in the amount of anguish Buffy must go through for events out of her control, and how her desire to do her duty without feeling peace becomes a broken facade by the time of season 6. Speaking of that season, if there's one big bad that best displays Buffy's ideas concerning human nature, it would be Dark Willow. Her corruption is far more gradual than a reaction to Tara's death, despite it being what pushed her to the extreme. When analysing her actions prior, it was established early on that the use of magic opens a person up to magical forces in a way that can't be fully reversed. And this shows in Willow going from quite timid and benevolent to someone already willing to conjure curses or change reality by the time of seasons 3 and 4. This also leads into her memory manipulation of Tara in season 6, that all show how magic corrupts her and leads into feeding her worst impulses, to the point that her transformation into Dark Willow and her desire to destroy the world when it has denied her what she wants is the perfect display of the series' cautious take on magic, the fragility of human nature, and how the only things stopping Buffy's friends from becoming enemies are their own will and circumstance. She is also more efficient than most other villains, in her first action being to attain the power necessary for revenge against Warren, and achieve her goal of getting rid of him as soon as possible. At the same time though, she also presents the hopes within humanity, with her being defeated through the words and heart of Buffy's most human character in Xander, as I've already mentioned before, in showing humanity can present the strength of character to shine above the darkness surrounding it. With that, we come to the end of this ranking. Thank you for watching until the end. Subscribe or stay subscribed for more on Buffy and other series. Perhaps watch through this playlist containing other videos on Buffy and Angel, and I'll see you next time.